right. Lars Achey, how are you, brother?
I am doing great. How are you?
Good, man. So we are going to talk about a little bit of you today and talk about all of the great things that have happened to you, regardless of the injury that you just had. So you had an injury to your pec, correct?
Yeah, left pec.
Okay, so you had a left pec injury. I'm going to have you get into how that happened and get into how your recovery is going. You are a patient of Aspire Rejuvenation. And
Yes.
I wanted to bring you on because I wanted you to kind of tell your story of recovery, the different supplements and treatments that you were taking, and kind of, give some hope to some people that maybe have some injuries that are, very common. I mean, unfortunately, we see a lot of tears, tendon tears, pec tears, especially in the athletic community.
Yeah.
So if you can give us a quick introduction about yourself, your athletic background, and then let's talk about your injury a little bit.
Sure. So my name is Lawrence, or Lars if you want to call me. I live in New Jersey. I am in law enforcement. I got to know Tomo a while back on Instagram. He's very inspirational with law enforcement. I saw that he was doing big things in Florida with Aspire Rejuvenation. So long story short, this summer I sustained a left pec injury. I don't know if you can see my scar here. So I was going too heavy. I was cold. And it was just a really long workout. At the end of my workout, I wanted to go heavy with a close grip bench press at 300. Like I said, I was cold. I was kind of burnt out at that point. And the second I dropped the weight to my chest, I felt a pop, and I knew immediately that I tore my pec. Typically recovery. So I called my surgeon, and he told me I definitely need surgery after an MRI. He told me the tendon was completely blasted. So it was completely torn. So I ended up getting surgery, and he said it was almost non-repairable. The tear was so bad, it was down here by my pec, and he had to actually pin my arm all the way over to my other hip in order to stretch it all the way up and tie it to the bone. So he said he couldn't even tie it together to the other tendon. He said it was so bad. He said he's never seen stretched a tendon that tight. So it was a pretty bad injury. But I said, all right, well, recovery is the most important thing. I gotta get back to work. I want to get back into the weight room, and it's about 11 weeks post-surgery now. And so he did a great job with surgery. He was able to tie it all together. And then I reached out to Tomo because I saw he was, he does a lot with recovery. And I reached out to him and filled out a consultation form and got in contact with a doctor over the phone on Zoom. And they hooked me up. And I'll tell you what, I recovered in, like I said, it's about 11 or 12 weeks post-surgery. I was doing chest today. Back to, incline press in the 80s, no problem. Didn't feel any tenderness. And like I said, the recovery has just been, it's ridiculous. They say it's about 6 months before you're even able to, with a bad pec tear like this, before you're even able to press anything. And I feel great, man. It's just been, mentally, physically, just all around, I know that my body would not have been able to do this without the help of Aspire Rejuvenation.
So, I mean, that's an amazing story, an amazing recovery story. First of all, being ex-law enforcement, thank you for your law enforcement service. I appreciate you still going through it. I know things are crazy all over the country. Being in law enforcement still, I seem to get out at a very opportune moment personally. I've been out of it for a couple of years. So you've been, I'm guessing, on light duty for the last few months, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So, thankfully you haven't had to deal with hopefully too much craziness. Of course, you're going to be back on the road, I'm sure, soon if you're not already. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So what I really want to know is, with the recovery, what did your doctors say? When they first gave you your surgery and everything like that, what did they say the recovery time would be? How long until you could train? How long until you could get back to work? And how does that compare with the reality of how you recovered?
So they were looking at, they said, a pec tear, a major pec tear with a surgery like this, you're looking at 4 to 6 months before you can even think about pressing any weight. You got to do PT, just the whole gamut of things where it's a bad surgery. I actually put online, my surgeon took pictures of my pec tear, as he was fixing it. It's pretty nasty stuff, but if you guys want to see it on Instagram. But yeah, I mean, the recovery is about 6 months. So, and I started benching again. I'm not even at 3 months now, and I'm already incline pressing, the 80s. So, and that's I'm being conservative because the last thing I want to do is re-tear it So I've been slowly working my way up to these weights and, you know, kind of feeling out how my body feels. And, you know, it's just, it doesn't feel tender. It doesn't feel like it's going to pop like it did previously. And like I said, I could do, you know, the mobility is 100%. And I've had full range of motion for probably since about week 2. Honestly, you guys put me on the protocol pretty much right post surgery, and you know, it just immediately recovery just started, you know, occurring quick.
Now, being a patient at this clinic, obviously I know what you were prescribed, but can you tell everybody watching what you were taking to help you recover?
Yeah, so you know, I talked to Dr. Carswell, and so they did, like I said, I did a whole panel of blood work. They looked at my, you know, cholesterol, my testosterone, my estradiol, my my triglycerides, the liver enzymes, you know, A to Z, you know, and they looked at this and analyzed it and basically put me on a protocol that was going to maximize my recovery and get my levels back to optimal levels. So I was prescribed testosterone cypionate with HCG, as well as anastrozole and peptides. And this combination, for whatever reason, was very, very effective for me.
Sure, and we know that having optimal testosterone is obviously going to, you know, improve recovery, improve tissue repair, everything like that. Some of the peptides you were taking, I'm assuming BPC 157 was one of them, correct?
That's right.
Okay, and were there any other peptides you were taking?
That was it.
Okay, so you know there are several peptides available. BPC 157 obviously being body protective compound 157. It's I think the best repairing peptide that there is, healing peptide. I've used it personally for tendonitis in both elbows. Obviously, you know as well, lifting crazy heavy weights for years and years. Your elbows, shoulders, everything takes a beating. You know, and when it comes to injury, you know, something that is as catastrophic as a pec injury. I mean, I tore a pec when I was 18, maybe 17, you know, and I was just warming up. Obviously, I probably tore it a few days before when I was doing heavy weights, but I had a pec there. I never had it repaired because it was just a small strand, you know, nothing catastrophic for me. You can barely see it if I flex. Obviously, it's, you know, that was 15 years ago for me. So for you, obviously, you had no choice. You had to have surgery. There was no way to, you know, function after that injury. So for anybody that's, you know, on the fence about it, because obviously what we're doing for repair is non-traditional. Most of the doctors are going to say, get surgery, have rest, do your rehab, and you'll be back in, you know, what do they say, 4 to 6 months, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody who is kind of on the fence about these alternative medications, basically, that you're not going to see in most doctors' offices?
I would say 100% do it, because not only is your recovery accelerated, but there's something about being treated immediately post-surgery. You know, I feel that I may have never recovered to the extent that I recovered, you know, as a result of these peptides immediately post-surgery. You know what I mean? To be able to get your range of motion back in a couple of weeks, when they had my arm pinned to the other side of my body, I couldn't even, you know, the first couple of days I couldn't even move, and within 2 weeks I had 100% range of motion. It's crazy. But, you know, you only have one body, you only have one life, right? Why not, at the very least, get your levels tested, figure out, you know, where your testosterone levels are, figure out where, you know, your estradiol, all these things, right? You need to know about these things to understand how your body's going to recover optimally. So if you're on the fence, 100% do it. Reach out to Tomo. The guy knows his stuff. I mean, everyone at the office was very friendly, very professional, you know, with follow-ups and everything. And it was just a really, really positive experience for me. And I would highly recommend it to anybody else who either has a recent injury or who just simply wants to optimize their fitness and performance levels.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much for the accolades and the commendations and everything like that. You know, obviously, you being a law enforcement officer, I'm going to have to tell anybody that's also in first responder category or ex-military or, you know, current military, we do give you guys a discount on all treatments and medications. 6%. It's cheesy, but we got your 6. That's where the 6% came from. So, you know, I just want everybody to know that we do have your back as first responders, as military veterans, and as active military. We also actually extended that to hospital staff to medical staff. So nurses, doctors, EMTs, everybody can also take advantage of that 6% off for all of our treatments. And now, since I have you on here and you are a law enforcement officer, is there anything that you want to say about law enforcement in general? Of course, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I talk about law enforcement constantly on my channels. I talk about police shootings, I talk about anything like that. I really want people to see the real side of law enforcement officers and the positive side of policing, because of course the media always is shoving the negative down everybody's throat. I've spoken to you several times. You're a normal guy like any other normal guy. You just happen to wear a uniform for 40 plus hours a week. So with the current climate, just kind of tell us, like, you know, what's going through your mind? What can you tell people to kind of reassure them? Obviously, we know law enforcement's not going anywhere. And regardless of if somebody hates you or not, you're still going to run towards them to help them no matter what.
Yeah, it's important to support the police. I mean, this is a tough topic. You know, I have a lot of opinions about it, but what I'll say is it's not, number one, it's not easy to get into law enforcement. I have actually a side business where I help people to prepare mentally and physically for the academy, things like this. And there's a lot of qualified people who are in good shape, you know, squared away and everything, who are overlooked because they don't qualify. And, you know, a lot of people say, you know, cops are undertrained. It's easy to become a law enforcement officer. I can confidently say that that's.
Almost lost you.
Sorry about that. I can confidently say that that's not true. It's a very tough job to get. I think it's important to support your police. I think if you get, you know, more outward attention and support from the police will be more likely and excited about the job. You know, if the media bashes the police, or you're highlighting police that may have had tough encounters, you're kind of brainwashing people to not fully understand the picture. You know, look at the statistics, understand, you know, if you're going to have an opinion about something, I think it's important to understand the statistics behind these opinions. So, you know, there's, you know, millions of police citizen contacts.
I think he's getting phone calls.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah. There's millions of police citizen contacts, and a lot of times where police will de-escalate situations correctly, but you don't hear about these things. You know, you see the things that are, you know, a lot of cops I know will disagree with some of these encounters. It's not like cops support, you know, Chauvin and how he handled that situation. No cop that I know believes that he did the right thing in that situation. So, you know, to think that cops support that or even condone that is, you know, definitely kind of ridiculous. So I would say continue to focus on community policing, rebuild relationships between the police and the community. If the community shows and the media shows support for the police are going to be more motivated, excited, more happy about their job. You know, you're going to get qualified cops wanting to get out of law enforcement because it's not worth it for them anymore. You know, to deal with these things and to not have public support. You know, it's a respected position. It's a lot of people are really, really squared away people. I would say they're the best. You know, the majority of cops that I know are the best of the best when it comes to society. And I can confidently say that because I'm in it, you know. So.
Yeah. Well, you know, again, we appreciate your service. I love all the law enforcement, of course, being ex-law enforcement. You know, I really appreciate the honesty there, you know, and people really need to hear it from police officers' mouths. You know, you're on the ground, you're in New Jersey, you are working the streets, you know, obviously pre-injury and then after recovery from this injury, you know, you're out there talking to people. So it's good for them to see that you're just a normal guy, just like me, just like them, just like anybody else, regardless of, you know, sex, race, creed, color, it doesn't matter. It's all about having a mutual respect, you know, for law enforcement and for people in general.
Yeah, and I think people also need to understand the stress that cops face on a daily basis, to understand why, you know, cops may act the way they do or handle situations they do in certain occasions. It is a very stressful job, and law enforcement's a very stressful job. I think it's important for people to understand how, you know, responding to negative events over and over again, how it can affect the psyche and how it can affect a law enforcement officer. So I think there needs to be definitely proper resources for cops to support them and to, you know, recognize if they may be facing symptoms of PTSD or issues as a result of these events, or even just repeated exposure to trauma that you see every day. People don't understand, you know, you're going to medical calls, you're going to fatal crashes, you're going to domestic violence calls, and these things can kind of add up and, you know, affect a law enforcement officer. And, you know, for supervisors to be able to identify risk, you know, identify if a cop's showing, you know, symptoms or issues like that, to be able to get them help early, I think is important.
Absolutely. Yeah, that didn't exist when I got into law enforcement back in 2007 and 8. That wasn't even really in place. There was no help for officers that were suffering from PTSD issues, and now there is. So it makes me really happy to see that. And it's much more recognized, and it's more accepted. Where back in the day, cops wouldn't talk about being depressed because it wasn't, you know, it wasn't okay for a cop or a man to talk about that. We're supposed to be tough, you know. And now it seems like it's, you know, more of a human issue where it's able to be talked about, and it's important to be talked about, because if a law enforcement officer is not tip top up here and physically, they're not going to be effective at their job.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time. I will let you go back to your day. It looks like you're having a nice day out in the weather.
Yeah, man, it's beautiful. We got a little haze from the fires in Cali, unfortunately, even out here in Jersey, which is pretty crazy. But
yeah, it's been cloudy and rainy in Florida, which doesn't make me happy, but it's good. We're getting away from the warmer weather, so hopefully we have some good weather coming up here.
Absolutely. But thanks again for having me on, man. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely, man. You stay safe out there, and if you need anything from us, of course, you can reach out to us.
Cool. I appreciate it. Have a good day.